Everything inside the cam chest looked pretty good. It was kind of hard to get off. Got it off, no issues. Yeah, everything looks good in the engine. All the gearing looks good. The teeth look good. No bearings are blown out or out of place or anything crazy. Put in a little bit of elbow grease on some of these gasket surfaces because the gaskets are completely stuck on some of these places, like the rocker box right here, the bottoms of the cylinders, and the heads. It's a lot of work on the heads because the gaskets are so stuck on there, and it's those paper gaskets are just tearing apart. But that's all part of it. But other than that, this looks really good. Alright, so I'm a dumb. I just tried to use a bearing puller, pull out the inner cam bearing, completely blew it out. So, pretty sure some pieces fell down into the case. So what I'm going to do now is get the case pulled apart. Kind of wanted to do it anyway, but didn't want it to be a necessity. Now it is, so that's fun. As far as pulling the case apart, from what I've heard and been told, it's not super duper hard. Just a matter of getting these like 8 or so bolts out, remembering where they go. Some of them have nuts on them, some of them don't. I'm going to do my fancy little diagram here with a box and keep track of where all these go and get this thing pulled apart and cleaned out. Check out the engine a little bit more thoroughly than I anticipated. Alright, it's been a few days, as per usual here. As you last saw, I was getting all the case bolts out. I'm going to go ahead and buy new case bolts for this because they were all just corroded and nasty. Couldn't get the cases completely apart because of one main problem. I guess you'd call it the cam drive gear, I guess is what the best way to describe it would be, is stuck on here. You need a special tool to get it off. Luckily, I know some people, and I got that tool. It's this little oblong thing right here, because this thing doesn't quite come off with a regular socket. So this is going to get taken off, and then I got to pull the actual gear off, because it's not just going to come off, but I have a gear, I have the puller for that as well somewhere right here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this off, pull the nut off, pull the gear out, get these cases split, clean it all up, and then we'll go from there. So this is the actual tool here. It's got kind of a rounded rectangle thing on it with a 1/2 inch drive. This is a Jim's tool, and it is a reverse thread nut. Keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and get this popped off, get the gear popped off, and then we should be able to just pull the cases apart. And there's a little key right here and a spacer. I'm just going to leave those in place because I don't want to lose them. And it's a good thing we did. As you can see right there, all those pieces of bearing that are falling out. And one other thing I'm going to do while I have all this apart, I actually could have done this while it was still together, but I have it apart, so I'm going to do it real quick. There are these 3 plugs on, 2 on top of the oil pump and 1 on the case right here. You take these off with a flathead screwdriver, and they're kind of a pain in the ass. I had to use a hammer screwdriver, whatever the hell they're called, to get them off. So I went ahead and bought these guys from Colony. They're just replacement caps, and they're hex heads, so they're not a giant pain in the ass to get off anymore. So these are all replaced, 1, 2, and 3, with hex heads. So it'll be a whole lot easier to service those in the future. Now I got to work on getting this bearing out. What I think I'm going to end up doing here is just kind of trying to drive it out from behind with a socket that's the same size and a hammer. Let's see what I can find. That might be the key right there. Yep, one. There we go. There's the busted bearing. There's another issue here. Getting this socket out. Okay. So here's the busted bearing. It's out. I don't know what happened here. I pulled bearings this way quite a few times and never had any issues. No damage to anything in the case. It's all looks fine. So now I need to get the new bearing pushed in, clean it out really, really well. Because I mean, you got the case apart, you might as well clean everything on the deep part of the inside of the engine. There's a lot of sediment in here, so get all that stuff cleaned up, get the new bearing put in, get everything put back together. I'm not worried about replacing the bearings and the seals in this because they look brand new. I do have a crank puller in case I decide to go that route, but I don't think I'm going to. Everything spins freely. The bearings are all in real good shape, so I'm just going to leave that the way it is. And I'm going to clean out the other side as well. Get every single fragment of this bearing out of here. Because there's pieces in this side, so I guarantee you there's pieces in the other side. And I have a punch stuck right there, so that's cool.